Hey folks, this is Todd Coburn of Cal Poly Pomona with the Finding Your Way series. Today we're going to talk about mastering an engineering curriculum. So if you're watching this video, you probably have some interest in engineering. Now you may already be past your college days. You may be considering going back for a master's. In that case, this will apply. And certainly if you're thinking of going to an engineering college for an undergraduate degree, then this video may help you. You're going to find if you're attracted to engineering, that engineering can be a rewarding, a fairly lucrative, a satisfying, and a fairly respectable job. Now, all jobs are respectable, especially if a person's working hard and giving in their all. But you may have noticed that not all jobs get the same respect from people as other jobs. And engineering is one of those jobs where no matter where you go worldwide, it's fairly highly regarded, up with doctors and above lawyers in most countries. So some common mistakes that students make when they come to an engineering curriculum is they often have bad study habits. They have schedule gaps. They overload their schedules. They get distracted and they procrastinate. These are the things that can kill you. Now you may be thinking, I won't have any trouble. I skated through high school with no problem. Well, sure, most folks that are attracted to engineering are pretty smart in book kind of learning. This means a lot of times we can skate through without working very hard. If you're anything like me, you may have skated through high school without working hard at all. I did most of my homework in class. What little homework I needed to do when I got home, I dispatched rather quickly. When I got to college, it was kind of a wake-up call. I found myself crashing and burning in a bunch of classes. Thought, what is happening here? This never happened before. I'm still doing everything I did before. But college required a much higher level of effort to succeed than I needed to apply when I was in high school. So the first thing is to get good study habits. Let's look at some keys to top performance. Schedule gaps can kill you. I found early on in my college career that when I had classes that were bunched up and then had a gap before other classes, that gap was very difficult to use well. Students overload. They take too many units and this ends up causing them to do poorly in a bunch of things, and they procrastinate. They wait to do their homework. So let's look at some keys to top performance. The first thing is to choose your professors carefully. You're going to need to study the curriculum guide of whatever university you choose to find out what classes you take or you need to take. And as you see which classes you need to take, you're going to find out that there are usually multiple teachers teaching each class. Now, sometimes a lot of teachers are kind of interchangeable. You can have one versus another. Many universities have many strong professors. However, you will probably find, as you found in earlier education, that not all professors may be created equal, but they do not perform equally. Some of them are going to be overly unfair and difficult to work with. Others will be extremely hard with not a carrot of good knowledge to make that worth the effort. Others will be so easy as to be a complete waste of your taxpayers' money and your cost of education. So you can actually nowadays, you can find a lot about a professor by looking at their Rate My Professors or KUFRS ratings, things like this. Now you're going to always find folks that are glowing about the teacher, and you're going to find folks that hate the teacher, especially if they're very difficult. But if you read enough of the reviews on the professor, you're going to get a pretty good feel for what you're in for. So do your homework, talk to other students, take a look at what information is out there, find a professor that's not too easy. You don't want to waste your money. You don't want to get through without learning anything. Some people think they do. Think, yeah, I just want an A so I can go out there and get a job. But no, it doesn't feel good to be incompetent and unable to do the things you're expected to do. It feels really good to be good at what you do. So you really want to learn the material while you're there. You don't want somebody who's too easy, who doesn't understand proper metrics and standards for measuring student performance. You also don't want a teacher who's unfair or who is a really bad teacher. You want a teacher who is good at what they do, maybe a little bit hard, and who is fair. Next, you want to keep your class load manageable. The second thing, after just not being ready for college, that I've seen in students that are crashing and burning, is they have too many units. A lot of times universities nowadays are pushing students through, trying to get them in and out as quick as possible. This is not necessarily in your best interest. You want to master the material that you study. So you need to keep your class load manageable. 18 and more units is something that will crash and burn most students, even very sharp students. If you have any kind of learning disability, or if you're an engineer and a very focused individual, you may find that even 16 units or 15 units is too much for you for most loads. Now, if you have a bunch of easy classes, if you carefully balance your load, so you've got some hard classes and some easy classes to offset that, you may be able to carry more units. But many students that I have seen really shouldn't be carrying much more than about 12 units. Some students need to take less in order to master the material as they go through. And a few students can actually take those 18 and above unit loads and still do well. You can always step your pace up, but once you start doing poorly, it can be hard to back off and not have a detrimental effect to your GPA. The next thing is to engineer your schedule. Early on in my career, or my exhibition through the university system, I found that when I had gaps in my schedule, it was hard to stick around and go to that class. And even if I did, it was really hard to use that time. When I first started planning my schedules, if I had a little gap of an hour or two, I thought, I'll study. I'll use that time to study. But actually, even though universities nowadays have a lot of places where you can study to make it easier for you, it's actually really difficult to study when you have a very short period of time. You have something you're coming from and something you're going to, probably a growling stomach and other things. What you want is a nice tight schedule with no gaps if possible. And having like 3 days a week or 2 days a week that you're at school, if it's a longer day, 2 days or 3 days a week is not too bad. Then you've got a couple of days off study. Alternately, having all your class in the mornings, you got the afternoons to study, something like that. All your classes being tight, and then you're free to go off and jump right on your homework. This can make a major difference in how hard or easy your engineering classes are. I have found that when my schedule is loose, this includes both when I was only taking academic classes. Of course, I was always working through school anyways. And also later when I was in industry working on my master's and PhD, if I kept a nice tight schedule, whether it involved academia or work, if I had that tight where I had a clear picture of where I was going to be and I wasn't losing a lot of time driving or waiting, that I performed at a much higher level for the exact same effort. So a tight schedule, very important. Next, study immediately. I have found that when I procrastinate, and I found that students are the same way, I do more poorly. The more I procrastinate, the harder it is to learn. When you wait till the last minute, whether you wait till late at night or you wait till right before class, I have found that what that does is cause anxiety that makes it hard to even think. I have found that if I wait till right before class or till late at night when I really want to go to bed, that I have so much anxiety because I don't have a lot of time that my study time isn't nearly as effective. However, when I learned early on about my second or third year of college, when I learned that immediately after class, I'd go straight to the place where I was going to do the work, and I would stay there and not move until I got all my homework done. The topic was fresh in my mind from my professors. I stayed on it. I was there at school where I could go and get a hold of a professor and ask questions immediately and have time to deal with evaluating those questions. Where if I waited, it was much less effective. It was when I started doing that, studying immediately after class, my grades started to pull right up to where they needed to be from the beginning. Now, some of you are late night people. I'm a morning person, so you may think I'm a late night person. I can study at night. Okay, maybe you can, but for most students, even if you are a night person, you're going to find that waiting till the last minute, it's going to have an anxiety effect that's probably going to hurt you rather than help you. The next thing is to overstudy, especially at the beginning. Jump on your class and knock it out of the park. Spend more time than you need at the beginning. It's really easy at the start of classes. A lot of classes start with like a slow pitch. Students get a little bit relaxed thinking it's going to be easy, and then they just get hammered. They don't even realize when they got behind and they can't catch up. If, on the other hand, you jump on that class, stay, and then you're like, woohoo, I know all this when you get in class, then later when things get harder, you'll be able to continue that pace and you won't be behind at all. You'll be a little bit ahead. If, on the other hand, the class continues to be a slow pitch because maybe you got some pansy professor that doesn't teach much, you can always back off later once you know that you're on top of everything you need to know. The last thing is don't quit. Don't quit. Life happens. You're going to get hammered. You're going to have a relationship go bad, or a family member with health issues, or you name it, a car accident. Life happens, and you need to figure out how to keep going. Now, it's okay to make wise decisions on your schedule. You can adjust your classes. Maybe if things are going really poorly, you just drop down to maybe 1 or 2 classes for a little while to deal with some things at home. If you stop, you're going to find out it's increasingly hard to continue. This applies especially to master's students, folks that get their undergraduate, then they think they're going to come back for their master's. Well, many people do, but more people than that plan to and don't have the kahunas to come back. What I recommend is don't stop. You can go out there and get that full-time job, and then on a part-time basis, start taking classes. If you find that they're too easy, you can always take a heavier load. If you find out it's a little bit hard, you can take a lighter load. But whatever you do, don't stop until you've completed your objective of mastering that curriculum and completing it. As long as you keep going, if you're going on a marathon, as long as you keep moving, you will finish. But no matter how fast you win in the beginning, if you stop, you may never finish that race. So choose your professors carefully. Keep your class load manageable. Engineer your schedule to be a nice, tight schedule. Study immediately and overstudy at the beginning. Don't quit. Enjoy. I hope that you find this useful, and I hope you go out there and do great things. Take care.